nation to be truly woke, it must have its own narrative of oppression. In America, activists focus on the country's history of slavery and racist laws. In Britain, they focus on the empire. To try to understand Canada's equivalent narrative, I spoke with David Lees of the Frontier Centre for Public Policy.
Today we're going to be talking about your rights and freedoms.
These woke campaigns, they all have their own narratives and histories and backstories and heroes that they take from history. In Canada, what do they focus on?
Well, in Canada, we don't really have much of a history of slavery at all. So I think that when it comes to our very mixed relationship with Indigenous peoples, the story of our relationship with Indigenous peoples, particularly through residential schools, is a very classic case to be used then as our critical race theory issue.
So in Canada, there is this narrative around what's called the Indigenous genocide. Can you just break that down for a British audience?
In Canada, we have been fed a narrative that we're a genocidal nation. And these are horrific types of claims to make, especially for Canadians, because Canadians deeply care about fellow Canadians and including Indigenous people. Now, there have been historically many examples of poorly thought out and conceived policies against Indigenous people, but it's a narrative that does not do justice to the history. Part of that is through the residential school story, where the country of its day was trying to figure out, well, how do we engage Indigenous people in this new economy? And so education was always seen, as it is today, as a key door opening to integrating people into Canadian society.
Let's talk more about this Kamloops mass grave site. So the Kamloops Band, which is the sort of group of Indigenous people there, they put out a statement a few years ago saying that they'd found this mass grave site and they'd done some scans of the grounds, and they claimed that there were 215 disturbances within the grounds, which they said were evidence of human remains, even children who were basically being killed or wiped out. Is that actually evidence of a genocide? Have they dug up the grounds? Have they found the bodies?
No evidence has been found to date. In fact, the sonar seeking devices are not indications of any grave. To suggest otherwise is utter nonsense. So those claims need to be investigated, like any other claim of a crime scene. They need to be looked at.
As you say, crucially, they haven't actually dug up these sites.
No, they've not been excavated, they've not been exhumed or anything like that. So it has really become a kind of a bizarre type of claim. This is not just simply about the story of residential schools. This is the story of how a nation has, I believe, been infected by a really destructive, hate-filled ideology of wokeism. We are truly the canary in the coal mine when it comes to G7 countries.
So you could actually be facing prison time, potentially, if you question this Indigenous genocide narrative?
Well, certainly if you listen to the openness of the current Minister of Justice federally, yes, we have a risk that they will seek to criminalize any questioning of the residential school narrative or the claims of mass